Is that live?
Yeah.
No. Oh no. It's
It said it was.
you
I
put
think
my
it.
handle in the very first beginning of
Oh
the
no! Do you
tweet.
want to? Should we redo it?
No, it's all right. We got some folks on there with us. All right. Uh
Sorry about that.
all right, welcome back everybody. We're here to commiserate a little bit. Come on in. We have Holly McCall from the Lookout joining us now, and we took a little break. Holly, what's going on? Good to see you.
It's good to see you all. Although I think like many people are feeling again.
No, you look
No.
great, and but we are all feeling a little bit. I think, like we would like to see some different results than what we're getting, but we do have a couple of things that have happened that have been good news. Heidi Campbell in Senate District 20 just took out Medicare fraudster Steve Dickerson, who attacked Gideon's army. And then also, why don't we do this now because he's sitting there waiting for us. We have another winner here in Memphis. Torrey Harris is a winner. Torrey, good job, buddy. Took
And
out John DeBerry.
wow,
How are you feeling, man?
Hey, I feel as good as the voters do right now at this point. I'm
That's
really
amazing.
excited.
look at that jacket.
Yeah,
Thank
what
you.
is going on with that jacket? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I did a jacket because of it's based off of the design of what Black Lives Matter is. It's a lot of the names that we know or don't know on this jacket. Let's see, that are on this jacket of lives that we've lost because of people not caring about the lives of others. And so it shows what representation looks like for us, where Breonna Taylor has lost her life, where George Floyd lost her life, right here in Memphis, where Brandon Weber and Darius Stewart lost their lives. And so I did a jacket that's on that. And so it really hits home for me. And as I was putting it on today, I just sat there for a moment just to think about how my impact on voters really truly can be because of the lives that has happened for us this year. 2020 has been hard, and we finally have an opportunity now to make sure that Black lives truly do matter.
Well, congratulations to you. You ran a great race. You definitely are going to be a step forward for the district. And one thing that I think we have to mention, because we've now gone from zero out LGBT folks ever serving in the legislature to two, because you and Eddie Manis have both now won, one Democrat, one Republican. What does that mean to you as a proudly out gay man that there are now going to be two state house representatives that are out?
Well, hey, at first, I surely hope that there's at least that both two are going to do what they need to speak forward on legislation in the future for people in this community. Hey, this is a hard effort to want to say that you're going to come out and stand forward on an issue, whether you're a woman representing women's issue or a person in the LGBT community representing LGBT issues. It is going to be a hard fight. However, I want people to know, those who are watching, those who have voted for me, that I'm going to fight for every single cause that comes when it comes to LGBT issues. And so I'm really glad to even be a part of the community, to finally have representation in our state house for this community. And it's going to be great.
Holly, you got some questions for him. What are you thinking about?
Oh,
Holly, we lost her audio.
There we go.
There we go. Now I got you.
Tory had an interesting race. And I talked about that with Democrats and Republicans before it happened. I talked to a Republican operative over the weekend. I was like, what's gonna happen in that race? And he didn't have a good read on it. He said, I think it's gonna be a toss-up. Tory Harris has campaigned really hard. He's worked really hard. And as it turns out, it looks like Tory is going to be one of two winners for the Democrats in this election cycle.
Yeah, Tori, I mean, it's not like there's been a slew of them. You and Heidi Campbell are really the two big winners. What did you feel coming into this? Did you feel like you had a good shot? What was your read on it?
Actually, I I honestly don't know if I thought we were going to win, and the reason being is that for the one thing that you hear on a constant basis, and it used to come from the representative, the former representative for District 90, on a constant basis, is that people went to the polls to vote for him, and we proved today that they didn't go vote for him. They went to vote for Democrat in the past. They went to vote for whoever was the only person on the ballot in the past. And so for the first time, we finally have an opportunity to say that we worked the ground to make sure that voters knew who we were, what we represented, and to actually let them know that we were going to show up for them in every.
Oh, we lost your sound, Tori.
There you go.
Tori's
Well,
right.
we lost the sound. I know you've been making a big effort to be accessible to people. That's the words you keep using, that John DeBerry wasn't accessible, but you will be. And I think that's a really important thing. And I know you're going to stay true to that. So, we look forward to you being up there. What do you want to leave people with tonight as we let you go here? I know you got some celebrating to go do. What do you want people to know about you as Representative Tori Harris out of Memphis?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want people to know that this new representative is going to work extremely hard to make sure that he is accessible to every single person possible. That I do have an open door policy, that people are able to know that I'm going to listen, empower, and serve not just some, but all of District 90, all of Tennessee. And I'm very excited about that. Just hold me accountable. I want people to make sure that they hold our elected officials accountable. We've learned in 2020, from Black Lives Matter to the pandemic to everything that's going on, that we have to hold people accountable. And so we are finally doing that, and I want people to continue it. Make sure that if there's something that you want from me, or that you didn't get from me, or if there was a vote that you questioned, make sure you say something. Acknowledge it. Let me know. Hold me accountable, just like every single person should be. And I'm just glad to be able to represent District 90. We finally have somebody in office in District 90 who is going to add to that number of Democrats in the House. So that way it goes from only being 25 out of 26 Democrats in the House actually representing Democrats, but 26 out of 26 in the House representing Democrats. And I'm very excited about that.
Well, congratulations to you, Tori. Thank you for making time to join us, and we'll be hollering at you, and we'll be trying to help hold you accountable. But we're proud of you. Good job.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow the holler.
Huge congrats.
Absolutely. All right, take care,
you.
Tori. Pretty cool. It's nice to see the smile on his face. He worked hard, and that's definitely nice to see. It's a big step forward from DeBerry. Holly, what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I'll tell you, I'm just sitting here thinking about this year, and every year over the last few, Democrats put forth more candidates. Seems like they're good candidates, better candidates every election cycle. They work harder, they raise money, and this was a year that Democrats really thought that they'd pick up potentially 6 or 7 seats, a couple of Senate seats, and things are shaking out not that differently. So I think it's disappointing to a lot of people. Certainly disappointing to Democrats, to everybody who's worked hard, to see this much effort go in and not have more seats flip. But it's not the fault. I mean, it's not the fault of the candidates. I think we were talking about this before you got on the show. You have outstanding candidates like Renee Hoyos, who ran for Congress in District 2. There's not a stronger candidate in the state, probably.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Afton, I think this is a sentiment that we're all kind of feeling a little bit and have been feeling for some time. What do we say to people who are feeling that? And, how do we change things? What needs to change in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I was on Twitter, and it seems like the Kentucky state legislature also had losses too, and considering they had a much more expensive Senate race than we did. I think it's just a testament to I just think Tennessee is a very politically apathetic state. And I think that as grassroots organizations, we have to do a better job of driving the narrative of how these policies impact folks' daily lives. I will say, I remember being in, what was the bar we were at for your election night watch party in Williamson County?
Bunganut.
The Bunganut, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting there and just, and really thinking and being, naive, thinking that, Bredesen was going to win. We were going to flip these congressional seats. And I think for all of us, like, it's just a testament that this is a long slog, right? And, and you can't go back to brunch. I'm sorry, ladies, like you can't go back to brunch. We have got to be as deeply organizing as we have been the past 4 years. And in 2022, we have these state seats up again. I think population growth is on our side in some of these blue districts, like 18 and 49. And I think that you've got organizations that are, deeply invested in flipping Tennessee. It's just going to take a little longer than we anticipated.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I think it's like just like really stressing that this is like the long game, so for anybody that's been organizing or that has gotten really involved with these races, but hasn't really, had a lot of like hopes riding on these races here in Tennessee, it takes so much time and a lot of effort. And I'm, relatively new to the game, but I was part of it in 2018. So that was kind of like my shock to the system. Well, of course, 2016, but then 2018 for these local races, like, like Canoe and everyone else. And yeah, it's really about the long haul. And I think that as much as we can, once we do start making some more gains, because we are, as Afton said, we're relatively apathetic, but there's like a lot of voter suppression, as we always talk about, lots of gerrymandering. So as much as we can, as we do start making some of these gains by speaking to people's like material interests, like in tandem with that, I think we need to be injecting like as much democracy as possible back into the system with, just really like unfucking the gerrymandered state that we live in. And yeah, just really kind of like injecting as much democracy back into our structure as we possibly can.
I guess my question would be, is there a way to rise above the national conversation? Like, it seems to me that Democrats have a branding problem more than anything else. And, I don't know how to get past that because, it's so tied to the national conversation. And I don't really even know what it means, but I do know, like, when we say, okay, it's not the candidate's fault, to me, what that means is there's a branding issue, that people are just voting R or D. And so how do you change that conversation? Is it policy stuff? Is it, going on offense? Is it specific issues? Like, it just seems like something on a macro level that needs to change, because we all agree, like, it's not the fault of specific candidates running in different parts of the state. Like, when I ran for Congress, I was out in rural Tennessee and I would say I'm running as a Democrat, and the conversation would be over before it started. So what is that? How do you drill down into that? And then how ultimately do you change it? And can you?
Well, I'm going to jump in. I think there are a couple of things. Afton talked about it being a long game, and it is. And I always pull out my old lady card, but I did grow up when the Democrats were in the majority.
Right.
Democrats had the majority in the state House, the state Senate. 6 out of 9 congressmen were Democrats until the last 10 years, really 10 to 15 years. And, the Republicans spent 30 years building to get to that point in 2010 when they flipped the House into a supermajority. And, Democrats let things slide for a long time. We took
It's
things
true.
for granted. We've been in the majority. The Democrats have been in the majority since Reconstruction, and it's going to take a while to build back. And rebranding is part of that. I think Democrats need to be tougher. Heidi Campbell won. She's a pretty tough lady. But I got to tell you, if I'd been on her campaign, I would have had somebody put out an ad for me having Steve Dickerson holding a cup of urine and talking about liquid gold, which is what his partners called all the urine tests that we're doing. He's putting out stuff. They're putting out stuff about Gideon's army and all this stuff. Man, why call him out for his stuff?
I completely agree.
I agree.
Yeah. And she's, she sort of did a pretty good job of that. But again, it just seems like it's not about these specific races. So that's the tough part that I'm trying to get my mind around. Like, I keep going back to, if we were Coca-Cola or, a brand that was having trouble selling a product in these parts of the state, you would like have a branding conversation and go out and ask those questions of like, what associations do you make with this letter and this party? And then, okay, how do we talk about the things that are bothering you with those associations? Or maybe it's just like finding new voters and motivating them, or both. I mean, I guess that's the conversation that we're always having, right?
Yeah, I'll also say, I think, if you look at the state like Colorado, who just flipped their U.S. Senate seat, their party and their coordinated effort, they were contacting 1 million voters a week. And I think that, like, you saw, I think it was like 2,000. Who's the fact checker on the holler? I don't know. Like a 2,000% increase in voter turnout.
We have hundreds of them.
Yeah, but like, in order for this to function, like you have to have, a robust party, a robust IE, and a robust caucus. And I think like in a state like Tennessee, we're operating at a deficit. And I think that like all of us need to step up and we need to start working together. We've got to recruit national donor landscapes to look at Tennessee as a project state, because like we're being outspent in these races and we're coming up short. And it's just like, it's not going to get any better if we're not spending money or doing the deep organizing in off years.
I think, yeah, I totally agree with that. And that was something that just with the organization that I organized with Sunrise, we were actually really happy, but honestly a little bit surprised that our national organization, Sunrise Movement National, endorsed Marquita Bradshaw. Not only did we in Tennessee, but our national organization did, and they spent money, we were part of the national phone banking effort, which helped, it helped us to make over 60,000 calls for her. Obviously, we have a long ways to go to flip a Senate seat here in Tennessee. We're going to keep working at that. But that's part of the long game that we're all talking about. And I think that it's something where we need more of those national organizations, as Afton was talking about, to look at us as a project state, to look at, states like Tennessee as something that's going to really pay a lot of dividends in the long term. And that sort of deep organizing, deep canvassing, that's something that we're going to continue to be doing. Our issue is the Green New Deal largely, but we support all the, progressive issues from top to bottom. And there are things like, with the Green New Deal in Tennessee, it's definitely something where it's an uphill battle. But big ag is a really, really terrible thing to a lot of rural farmers. And they hate big ag. And so you can actually make some inroads talking about the Green New Deal to them, within the context of big ag. So there are ways of doing this. We just have to find out where we can, talk about those issues in ways that where we can actually gain some ground.
Holly, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to go
interview each other at the same time. Go.
Yes, let's do it. We're talking about branding.
Yeah.
I mean, there's clearly an issue there, and I don't have the answer to it, but here's something we see. When Democrats try to run as Republican light, that doesn't work any better than if Democrats run like very progressive and take their best shot. And I don't, I'm not going to call out any names since a lot of people have lost tonight, but we've seen some candidates who made Democratic candidates who made a really big play to try to win Trump voters over and didn't do any better.
We can talk about Bredesen, who already 2 years ago, Right.
Yeah. I mean, hey, he's a good guy. He was a popular governor. He ran as Republican light or Democrat light, whatever, and lost by 11 points. And we've seen that in this race too. And so I think I don't have what the answer is, but I know that is not it for Democrats. I know running as a Republican light is not going to help.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, the dilemma. I mean, that's the dilemma you face as when you're running as a candidate. You just start to fall into that. You start to sort of tone things down, and it's an easy trap to fall into. But I think we need to really people need to understand what they're missing out on by not having Democrats in office, which I think is what Afton's saying. And the way that their lives would be impacted for the better, that's the case that needs to be made. And it's not easy to make, because in this part of why we started the holler, in the lookout, I mean, people aren't hearing that messaging. People aren't hearing that the state is suffering, that we're number one in medical bankruptcies and all that. They're hearing, oh, we're fiscally stable. And then, they're getting hit with Rush Limbaugh and Hannity, and they're just not hearing the other side of it. So, it's really important to get out there into the rural parts of the state and make the case, but it's so difficult because they've been beat over the head with these talking points for so long. And so, it just feels like there needs to be a strategy and a more together, cohesive strategy.
I think that, yeah, I totally, it's really tough. I think that, as you're talking about both, branding and also like national versus local, I mean, obviously, this is something that we don't have really any control over, but it would be really nice if the, sort of national Democratic Party establishment took what Holly said and ran with it in terms of like not running Republican light candidates. Because I think that would really help if once we started, actually showing people like, hey, we can pass these, if we did actually, get some power and we're actually able to pass things that were really helping people, like, Medicare for all, or even, Joe Biden's option with like, just expanding, creating a public option, that sort of thing, showing people like how they could actually help their lives. That would help the branding, I think, in these more local areas. And it did, to an extent with Obamacare. That's a very popular plan now. If we can, continue to show, how we can actually help people, that'll help the branding. Like it'll sort of trickle down to more local candidates here in Tennessee and in places where it's hard for people to make inroads because of the D next to their name. So that's a lot of that, like in terms of separation, may not necessarily be possible, but it would really be helpful if the, national establishment kind of went more towards, actually countering conservatism as opposed to being conservative light in the candidates that they run. It would be helpful for people. And also, I think strategically, it's the best move.
Afton, what are you going to be telling people tomorrow on your massive calls with people?
Man, I'm an eternal optimist, obviously. And I think like, it's just really sobering. I mean, this was the same moment we had in 2018 where we really thought Bredesen was going to win. And I think it's the same. It's like, I think, it's going to take a lot longer than 4 years to undo a generation of ableism and classism and racism. And, I think it's just a lot of work. And I think like, as Democrats want to have the moral high ground and be like, Trump's an awful person. But I think the work is so much deeper than that. And it's really, it's on like a very micro level. And you've got to have the resources to be able to do that type of work on a daily basis. So, I don't want Tennesseans to despair. Like you've got, everyone on this call, as well as, all the organizations we work with, like we are doing this work day in and day out. And we're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
Same.
Right. Well, we're not going anywhere either. And, there's still votes being counted out there. I mean, I feel like some pessimism seeping in, but, Biden is still close in a lot of different states. And, I don't think people should lose hope on that yet. We probably won't know tonight. But there were some races that we thought had a real chance. Brandon Thomas, Mariah Phillips, state races across the state that don't look like they're going to go the way we were hoping. That is not a reason to quit. That's just, another landmark on the journey. And so, that's how I think everybody has to look at it. I know that's how we'll be looking at it. And, I appreciate the work you guys are doing. And now the Holler and the Lookout exist. And, those are good things. So, you have any parting thoughts for us, Holly, as we sort of head out here?
Well, the Lookout is going to continue to do what we do. We are a nonpartisan outlet, but our mission is to hold government accountable. And our writers will continue to delve into state issues, things that are screwed up and bad policy, COVID in jails, for instance, lack of mask policies, government handouts to companies that don't produce jobs. So we're going to continue what we're doing because it's important to educate people that just because there's a Republican in office, that person is, regardless of the R by his name, he is not benefiting you.
By the way, can we talk about the polls for a second? Like, do polls mean anything?
Jeez, apparently.
I mean, like we spend so much time looking at polls, and look
at this. Look at the South Carolina Senate race. Jamie Harris is 13 points below Lindsey Graham. It's just like you can't trust polls, and I'm a staunch supporter of that. Like since 2016, you can't trust them. Like look at these Senate races. Yeah. Looks like Susan Collins is going to win in Maine. Just like, ugh.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Pollsters had a real black eye after 2016. And so
this isn't going to help.
No, they were great efforts. So we're going to overcorrect and we're going to oversample, white men with high school educations or whatever. And you know what? The polling's not any better this time than it was last time.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And, I definitely tried to give them benefit of the doubt, that excuse that it was within the the whatever you call it, the
Margin of error.
margin of error. But
not when it's 13 points, baby.
Yeah, 13 points, and all these states where it's disappointing, and it just makes you question a lot of different things. But there's still time, so let's not give up yet. We sort of knew that there was going to be this red mirage. We'll find out if it is a mirage after all. But anyway, Holly, thanks for coming on. We'll see how things go tomorrow. Afton, do you have anything else you want to say as we sign off here for the night?
Yeah, just quickly, I touched base with Emily Cephas, who's our Enough is Enough organizer, who's now the organizer in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And Wisconsin will not, the votes won't be coming in until tomorrow morning. So, a key presidential state is once again just managing expectations. Like, be weary of people calling the presidential race right now because it's still not over until tomorrow morning, and especially in a key state like Wisconsin. So, once again, like, just please, please, please believe in Tennessee. Like, we've got to keep organizing. We can't just shut down. Like, the work continues.
And just so I know, did Gloria win?
She did.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Gloria Johnson win.
There we go.
Okay. And did Jason Hodges win?
Jason Hodges won.
Yeah.
So I think
Hodges wins.
Yeah, and Freeman and all the races we flipped in 2018. So just all that.
I just want to make sure we use some of these because Cassie made all day making these.
Wow.
We didn't actually use any of them.
Should we? Do you want to play the Trump? Do you want to play the Trump one just for fun?
And this is the one. And then this is the one we had ready. This is this we couldn't use it yet, but here we go. Cover your ears.
Get ready.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, that's what we had ready just in case. We can't. We're not really sure.
You are a magician, my friend.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's good work right there.
I made that one.
And then we also have this one. This one is nobody's idea of a good time.
Oh, God.
Gross.
I am not okay with that.
Yeah,
Nope.
cover your eyes, folks.
Nope.
Make sure you wash your hands when you're in Cordell Hall. That's all.
Yes. We
And everything else too.
will be very
What?
far up his ass.
Put in everything else too. Wash everything else.
Just-
All right.
Justin,
Holly.
I myself will not be up his ass.
I will be. If you did, you would see me there. All right.
That's where the holler is supposed to be.
See you guys later.
All right.
Bye.